I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby here with Natasha Lyonne, writer, producer, director, star, mastermind behind Russian Doll, which is now back for its second season. So there is so much to get to with what you're able to do this season, but I want to just start with sort of the germ of the idea for season two and whether it actually started with what you wanted to have as the kind of device, like the time travel, or if it was more thematically what you wanted to sort of explore with Nadia and with Alan.
I guess it was more about philosophically or almost theologically what felt worth exploring and how to go deeper. I guess baked into the title of the show, Russian Doll, is this sort of, glass onion, or it's you want to get in a level deeper each time to this smaller and smaller seed of the thing. And in many ways, season one is how do I stop dying? So it felt organic that season two would be about how do I start living. And I guess another way of putting it is almost sort of like this more superficial outer layer is the destructive behavior that for Alan is kind of, he says, I remember my first death, I killed myself. And Nadia is kind of walking around freewheeling, walking into taxi cabs. And so, you kind of take this defiant sort of lone wolf and in finding this connection with Alan, it's kind of a way out, but on a deeper level, now that it's 4 years later and 3.5, and they're kind of participating members of society, sort of where does that leave them? Sort of how did they get there in the first place?
So how did you land on time travel as the right device for how this would be explored?
Well, the show obviously is sort of about mortality on some level, which I always think is, funny that the setup of life is, that we all know we're not going to get out of here alive. And yet it feels so important. And, everyone's always convincing each other, like we're in this shared reality where it's like, if we just are ambitious enough or do life right enough or find the right person or, look the right way or something, that it'll feel normal. And it's kind of like, well, it's always going to feel weird because we die no matter what. So the game is rigged, which is why the show is a comedy, because there's an inherent sort of absurdity, I think, to that. And, that is sort of, I guess, spiritually what it's always exploring is the weirdness of that. But so, season one is very kind of time loops and mortality. And I think we wanted to stick with, an ongoing sort of like meditation on the funny natures of time. And so time travel became salient. And something I guess I always think about, so in season one, there had been this book that I got into by this guy, Doug Hofstadter, who's a quantum physicist. I'm a high school dropout, so I understood it at my level. I'm a strange loop, and that was very inspiring, as well as Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, because that means comedy. And then, in season two, I sort of got into this book by this guy, Carlo Rovelli, called The Order of Time, and he was asking these questions about the arrow of time and why can we remember the past, but we can't remember the future. And I started thinking about, PTSD or whatever. And, the funny way in which we're time traveling all the time in the here and now, like the show sort of likes to be both high and low. It's sort of, high concept science fiction, but it is also very Abel Ferrara kind of gritty and dirty. And I don't know that I've ever seen Nadia take a shower. And I like that 20 character shower. And so, yeah, it's sort of, you can be like walking into a room and the air changes, or somebody has a weird, very small interaction. And suddenly you're kind of like thrust back to being bullied in junior high or something. And you don't know why. And you're just trying to stay and pretend you're a person. And in that moment, weirdly, we're time traveling all the time. Also, I thought it was, so I just wanted to kind of explore that, I guess. And I thought it was funny that the elevator pitch would be, Groundhog Day season one and Quantum Leap in season two. I think that's funny.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I actually think what's really striking about the show is, no matter how heady the concept may be, I think, Nadia is so go with the flow and really sort of adapts to almost any situation, no matter how out there it is. And I think that's also kind of reflected in the writing, where you're really along for the ride and you don't get bogged down in like exposition and where you're like really having to spell all these different things out to the audience, like here's why this is happening, here's how this is possible. So yeah, you're really just kind of on this journey with her, and I feel like you're kind of trusting the audience to just go along with it. So I'm curious just what your discussions are about, like what the rules would be of what this version of time travel is, and how to sort of communicate all of that to the audience without just totally losing people and like going super deep into these sort of heavy concepts and quantum physics and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like, I'm always so grateful that, like Netflix and Universal let us make this show. It's, I say that because there's a measure of sort of counter programming that goes with it. It's a very underground season. It's about sort of outsiders inherently. It's a bit of that's a way of saying that I think we're always trying to meet the audience at the highest level of sort of assuming kind of the highest IQ for everyone, mostly because we want to get into all this stuff. And usually as a room, we actually do write it all out. Like there are drafts that are abandoned, and also even scenes we shot where we have, Nadia playing at the sort of like detective of, there's a scene in particular that we shot that we removed in the edit in the first episode, where she's kind of going back and retracing her steps and kind of trying to figure out which train she went to, and she goes to wrong train stations and eventually finds the right trace. And she's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe it was Astor Place, and that was the inciting event. And, we sort of see her all do that. And then also there's, so many drafts, and along the way there's a lot of like writing out all of the rules, and we kind of have the character speak it or show you, don't tell you. And, ultimately it's kind of, we have this conceit of like Nadia's, and this was also true of season 1, which is, since Nadia is kind of a coder and a video game, maker, it sort of feels like she's hip to a lot of this stuff, and for us as audiences, it feels like we've seen Back to the Future, you know what I mean? Like we've seen a lot of movies, we've even seen Tenet, you know what I mean? And where we've seen Memento, we've seen Jacob's Ladder, like, and there's, I don't know, to us, it just always feels like there's a more interesting game to play. Like, I think we like the idea that she was a little bit more seasoned and not really playing a game of, in season 1, like one of her primary, I know because I spend so much time in the editing room is, and playing it is, Nadia being like, what's going on here? How did I get, oh no, it's happening again. And this year, I think it just felt more, it's almost I would equate it to what you would call in recovery, like a frelapse, where she's stuck in her, routine. It's kind of like 3.5 years later. Okay, she's showing up for life. Now she's got Ruth, which is really her last remaining witness in this life. And Ruth is dying and she doesn't want to look at it. As we age, the call starts to come from inside of the house that it's time to be the caretaker and become the parent. And it comes for us whether we're ready or not. So Nadia sort of like can't really show up for this present moment and discovers this kind of way out. Oh, this is like a frelapse into a train, into a game where maybe I can actually change things sort of egoically. And I get to hang out with Annie Murphy, who doesn't want to do that, young Ruth. And I think Alan becomes sort of similarly seduced by these ways in which, why can't we figure out how to do life perfectly? Why doesn't it feel totally right to be a person? Hold on, there's a way out. I'm not that curious yet. It seemed more interesting in a way that they were just willing to go along for it. And that life was going to sort of take them, either, whether you're dragged kicking and screaming or you get on the bus willingly, they were going to end up seeing that this was kind of a little bit more of a, that there was sort of like a greater sense of events at play than just what they thought was happening on the material plane, that something, deeper was going on, just like in season 1, something deeper was going on. You know what I mean? It wasn't just about dying and living. It was about sort of, well, like why and how do we actually know each other? What is this, game where we're forever inextricably linked?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, speaking more to Nadia and just sort of her characterization, we see her becoming so hyper focused on fixing those things and sort of messing around with the past. And we see that, she sort of misses the forest for the trees. When we get back to the president, she realizes what's happened to Ruth. And, that may be something that she might regret in the future. But I think with the themes of this season, she can't really go back and, try to mess around with time again to like be with Ruth in her final days. But I guess the question is just, where does she sort of go from here? How does she sort of carry on from the weight of this experience?
Yeah, I guess I see it as a sort of, like a bit more beautiful in a way, which is about human connection and chosen family and this real concept of this ever elusive unconditional love idea. It's like I had a friend say, we're not the irregular sheets in the half off bin. Like, we exist in this way where we are so consumed with the idea of being broken, and it's obviously a show about being able to like face yourself in the mirror. It's all these kind of mirror hero shots, and we're mirroring that again in season 2 as they sort of come off this train. And I like the idea that like we as human beings can have shortcomings and failings and like miss the moment and still not have to beat ourselves up for the rest of our lives over it. In a way, like on some level, it's like because she's been through this, she's now able to understand that Ruth actually, it's not about, was she there? Was she not there? Did she get the goal? Did she fix her mom? It's like all these ideas that we think are so core, like egoically, we think they're so crucial to sort of like getting it right. And ultimately, that's not even what's happening. What's happening is like a deeper perspective, and that sort of alters your point of view on even the concept of free will, or even, the concept that, it's like, we're doomed to carry this bag of particular rocks. Like, oh, this albatross, if I could only offload it, rather than sort of like removing the bar, but it's like, it's there, but it's not causing kind of current injury in a way. So as she walks back into that Maxine's party, they're suddenly there to envelop her and say, no, buddy, we're your witnesses too, and like Ruth loved having you in her life, man. And Alan's like, I got you forever, and Nadia's like, I got you, buddy. And she's sort of left this kind of much more, vulnerable, like it's like a subtle thing, but it's like, she gets back into that mirror and there's no more eyeliner and there's no more kind of like big shoulders, tough guy shtick. In a way, it's kind of like, all right, settle down. You know what I mean? This is your ride, and maybe that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, it does make me wonder how things go from here and how she does change after this. I'm sure you've been asked a million times about what's next for season 3 or whatnot, and concepts and everything.
Life is endless shenanigans. Do you know what I mean? So I'm usually writing from like a perspective of almost like 5 years. I think people often think that it's autobiographical or something, and it's actually, the specifics are not, more I use them to kind of like color in stuff of, with great specificity comes great universality, I think, because we're able to kind of avatar something and like release ourselves a bit. And you got this, music and kind of cool shots. And it sort of like helps you, like this aesthetic, to be like, all right, maybe I'm allowed to look at my inner child, and maybe that's cool, man. And, but like, as somebody who like really, what's I guess autobiographical is sort of uh, the emotional component of what is it like to be a person like we all are on this journey together, and sort of curious about some questions about things. So I would say that there's no shortage. I don't personally feel like a resolved, complete, finished human being. You know what I mean? And I think that we also have some very, funny, wild ideas that we've been throwing around. I don't think that, I think, Russian doll is inherently, even in its, pitch form of like, Amy Poehler and Leslie Headland and I in early days, it's always been sort of conceived of as somewhat anthological. It's sort of the ways and hows of that usually shift. So, our ideas are, I think they're not bad, but, who knows?
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, I did also want to just touch on your SNL stint, which you hosted the season finale just a few weeks ago as of this recording. I would love if you could just describe the energy of that week and that night, especially also having it be like the end of the run for Kate McKinnon and Adie Bryant and Pete Davidson, Kyle Mooney. Like it was a big night. So can you just describe that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that was maybe the greatest week of my life. And in no small part because, Fred and Maya were with me. And
Right.
obviously I make the show with Amy. And it just felt, I love Adie so much. I got to direct her in Shrill. And like years ago, she wrote this short film that she put me in. And like, so we've been tight for a while. And I've just known those guys. Like I love Kate and Kyle, and it's funny that Pete's such a character, and so I think I've been going there since I was like a kid,
Right.
and yeah, I really really loved it, and the what was so fun about it is it really like cuts out all the fat. Like I think I'm very into that sort of as a I don't know, an arty person or whatever, somebody who's been doing this for 35 years, like I got my SAG card in like 1985, I think. And I'm really grateful that, I'm having a moment or whatever, but, let's be clear, there's been like, decades at a time where that has not been the case. So I'm very like aware when something nice is happening. And, I think that a lot of showbiz is kind of, there's a lot of like fat around it is the best way I could describe it, where you don't really get to do the stuff you care about. Like part of what's so fun about kind of like doing so many jobs on Russian Doll is that you're fully occupied kind of all the time. And it's wildly collaborative. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm just sitting there doing all this stuff with the megaphone. I mean, we're in there, we're writing it, we're shot listing, we're storyboarding it with, as we're rehearsing with the actors, and I'm rewriting in real time. It's like, lodge your complaints now. And, it's where, improvising and changing stuff in the day, and we're editing it, and we're, dialing it in with the sound design and everything. And it's just such a holistic, like fully occupying thing. And SNL was really like that too, where it's so high stakes and fun. It's like the opposite of sitting around and wait. Like they rip your clothes off with Velcro and like slap some like glue on your face and jam a wig on you. And you go out there and you don't even know, like they throw braces in your mouth and you're like, all right, let's do this.
It's showtime.
And I realized like it's showtime. And yeah. I am somebody who really gets off, I think, on that. I like thrive in the work. I really like making things, and I like also, I think, like teamwork, and that it's just so weird that things are like scrambled eggs in ether. And then if everybody just believes in it sort of enough, it starts kind of like shaping itself into this thing that's going to be real. So you're just watching that happen so quickly that it's so fun. And again, I guess, yeah, I don't know what to say about loving jokes as hard as I do, that for me, it's like, it's so much fun that all of those like big ideas end up in something, that also like makes people laugh. It just, I get a lot of joy from it.
Well, I could talk to you for another 20 minutes, but unfortunately, this is all we have. For those of you watching, subscribe for more interviews. Go to goldderby.com, make your Emmy predictions. Thank you so much, Natasha.
Thank you
This
so
was
much
great.
for having me. Thank you.